In this demo, we'll show you how UiPath Autopilot can simplify the loan application review process through financial spreading. In case you're not familiar with the term, financial spreading is the process of taking a company's financial documents, things like balance sheets, income statements, and credit reports, and turning them into structured, standardized data. This data is then analyzed to calculate key ratios, check repayment history, and identify potential risks. In simple terms, it's about transforming unstructured financial documents into reliable insights so that banks can decide whether to approve a loan. This is the current process that credit officers follow when reviewing SME loan applications. It begins when the officer receives the loan application and supporting documents, such as IC copies, the company profile, financial statements, and a credit report. Each of these documents has to be manually reviewed to check for completeness and accuracy. The officer then re-enters key details into spreadsheets, calculates financial ratios by hand, and cross-checks the figures against the credit report. Finally, a manual summary report is compiled and submitted to the credit committee. As you can see, this process is highly manual, time-consuming, and prone to errors, which creates delays in loan approvals. With UiPath Autopilot, the workflow looks very different. Instead of manually reviewing and keying in data, the credit officer only needs to upload 4 key documents: the shareholders and directors' IC copies, the company's SSM profile, the 5-year financial comparison report, and the company's credit report. From there, Autopilot automatically extracts the data, validates the ICs against the company profile, and highlights any missing documents. It then analyzes the financial figures, calculates ratios like current ratio, debt to equity, and return on equity, and cross-checks the results against the credit report. Based on this, it generates a clear recommendation: approve, approve with conditions, or decline. Finally, the structured output is passed into a UiPath workflow, which automatically creates an Excel file with 3 tabs: company information, core financials, and financial analysis with recommendation. To get started, we provide Autopilot with a prompt, essentially the playbook for how to handle loan applications. In this demo, the prompt has already been created under the CRM department, category loan application. This means officers don't need to write instructions every time, they just upload the files, and Autopilot knows exactly what to extract, how to analyze it, and what decision framework to apply. Let me walk you through this prompt briefly. First, it specifies the 4 input documents Autopilot needs: the directors and shareholders' identity cards, the SSM company profile, the 5-year financial comparison, and the company's credit report. Next, the prompt describes the validation rules. Autopilot checks that the ICs match the SSM profile and that all shareholder documents are provided. If something is missing or incorrect, it will stop and ask for correction before moving on. Then, the prompt defines how the output should be structured into 3 parts: key company information, core financial data, and financial analysis with recommendation. Finally, it outlines the ratios and checks Autopilot should calculate things like current ratio, debt to equity, arrears, and litigation history, and the decision framework of approve, approve with conditions, or decline. It's important to note that this prompt is fully customizable. A financial institution can adjust the ratios, thresholds, or even add extra checks to match their own lending policies. Let's see how this works with our sample company, ABC Sendirian Berhad. To begin, we'll upload all the required documents into Autopilot, which are the company's SSM profile, the 5-year financial comparison, the credit report, and shareholders and directors' ICs. Autopilot immediately checks the uploaded files against the company profile. Autopilot detects that only 1 IC has been provided even though there are 2 shareholders and directors listed in the company profile document. In the SSM company profile, we can see there are 2 directors listed. Autopilot highlights this discrepancy and asks for the missing IC before continuing. Now we'll upload the missing IC document for the second director. Once all files are complete, Autopilot resumes the process and moves on to data extraction and analysis. Here, Autopilot validates that both IC numbers match the SSM profile records. On the left, you can see the SSM company profile, and on the right, you can see the IC document. The ICs line up perfectly with the shareholder and director details, which confirms that Autopilot has correctly matched the data between documents. Now, let's look at the data extracted by Autopilot. Here, you can see the data that Autopilot has extracted from the SSM profile on the left side, compared directly against the original PDF on the right. This side-by-side view helps confirm that Autopilot is accurately reading key details such as company name, registration number, date of incorporation, addresses, directors, shareholders, and company secretary. Next, Autopilot also accurately extracted the financial information from the 5-year financial comparison document and the credit report. Autopilot then calculates the key financial metrics from the 5-year financial comparison and the credit report, such as liquidity ratios like the current ratio, which measure if the company has enough short-term assets to cover its short-term obligations, and also leverage ratios like debt to equity, which show how much the company relies on borrowing versus its own capital. It's important to note that these calculations are flexible. The exact ratios and metrics can be tailored to match a bank's lending policy or a company's internal credit assessment framework. Based on the calculated values, Autopilot then generates a clear recommendation, the analysis, the suggested loan amount, and the suggested conditions for the recommendation. For ABC, Sendiri and Berhad, Autopilot suggests, approve with conditions. The analysis highlights that the company has strong financial performance, profitability ratios have been improving, liquidity is excellent with a current ratio above 5, and debt to equity is trending downwards, showing financial stability. At the same time, Autopilot flags 2 areas for attention: a 1-month arrear on the car loan, which could signal short-term cash flow issues, and a litigation record, which has already been settled. Because of these factors, Autopilot doesn't reject the application but recommends approval with additional safeguards, such as monthly repayment monitoring for the first 6 months and quarterly financial reviews in the first year. Finally, it suggests a loan amount of Rs 500,000, which balances the company's strong repayment capacity with the need for close monitoring. This shows how Autopilot not only gives a decision, but also provides transparent reasoning and clear conditions that a credit committee can act on. Now that Autopilot has completed its analysis, it outputs the structured data in CSV format. At this point, we'll click Run to execute our UiPath workflow, which automatically converts the CSV into an Excel file. The workflow provides the file path for the generated Excel, and we can open it directly. Inside the Excel, you'll see the information neatly structured into 3 tabs. The first tab contains the key information, things like company details, directors, shareholders, and the secretary. The second tab shows the core financial information, which includes the 5 years of financials along with the credit score and facilities. And the third tab presents the financial analysis and recommendation, including the calculated ratios, any arrears check, and the final loan recommendation. By combining UiPath Autopilot with a simple workflow, we've built an assisted automation that takes care of the heavy lifting, validating documents, analyzing financials, and preparing a structured Excel report. This approach saves time and reduces manual errors. At the same time, it keeps the credit officer in control. They simply upload the required documents, review Autopilot's recommendations, and generate the Excel file with a single click. The result is a faster, smarter, and more reliable way to process SME loan applications, helping financial institutions make better decisions while improving efficiency. For more information on how we can help you implement automation in your organization, please visit our website at www.cybiant.com or drop us an email at info@cybiant.com.